High-End Homes Handled Right. This is the Real Property Management Luxury Podcast hosted by Lindell Johnson. Have you ever purchased a home and it's in another state and you just, you're rushing for time and maybe you just didn't have time to get an inspection done? This is something that I definitely do not recommend. But there has been some homeowners that have done this. And so today we want to talk to an inspector who deals with going through properties and making sure that you're taken care of as the home, as someone that's about to make this big purchase, probably one of the biggest purchases in your life. And we want to make sure that, you're taken care of. So today we've got the one and only Cesar Quirindongo. He's the owner of TCQ Inspections. They handle Houston, Katy, and the Sealy area.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time today.
And thanks for having me.
We talked earlier, and before we get into this, I really want everyone to first let's start where we stopped last time.
Okay.
And that's that military experience.
All right.
As an inspector, I would want someone to be detailed. I would want somebody to be on time. Mm-hmm. And these are all things that many military members have. Mm-hmm. And how many years have you been in the military?
Total of 23 years.
That's impressive. And what branch?
Originally enlisted Navy. I was about 14 years in the Navy. Then I switched over to the Army for another 9, and then I retired.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You're now the owner of an inspection company. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about things that you look for when you're actually inspecting a home. What are some of those things? Typically,
in a home inspection, we inspect foundation, we inspect the roof, we inspect the interior and exterior of the structure. We inspect electrical, plumbing, HVAC, appliances in the home.
Here in Houston, there are so many areas that have been flooded. And, flooding is something that, even if an owner is from out of state, something that they worry about. When you're going through and you're looking at these properties, how can you tell if that property's ever been flooded?
If a property's been flooded, I think the main thing is that you could see if there was a flood line. If it hasn't been repaired, remediated, and the flood line should be one of the first things you see throughout the home.
How often do you see that? Have you seen that in this Katy, Sealy area?
No, I personally have not seen any.
Good.
Thankfully.
Right. That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
If you're investing in this Houston area, don't be afraid of the flood. If the home has been flooded, be cautious for sure. But there's rules and regulations, that basically enforce the idea that you have to have it. You have to be told that property was, flooded or it's in a flood zone. And these things that, you need to look for before you make that purchase. Electrical issues. Mm-hmm. What have you seen with that? Have you seen any, electrical problems? And what are you looking for in regards to electrical?
Really what we inspect is, well, first of all, our inspections are purely visual. If it requires a special tool to open anything, or if we need to break into like the wall, for instance, we're not allowed to do that. So our inspections include any electrical that is observable, anything that's visible. So the electrical panel, outlets, the outlets, for instance, the electrical that might pertain to pool equipment. We make sure to inspect all of that.
Once again, you cannot go inside of a wall. Mm-hmm. You can't cut open sheetrock to look. It's a visual inspection. Same thing for plumbing, obviously. Plumbing, you can't go and you can't look at a line with a camera. That's something that an owner would have to purchase, correct?
That's an additional service, yes. And but like for instance, inside the home, looking at the plumbing, what we look at are basically like we operate the faucets. We run the water in the tubs, in the showers. If there's any leaks, we just look for that with the plumbing, and in the surrounding area as well, because you don't want any water getting into the wall. So you do have to make sure that everything is grouted correctly, sealed correctly, and things like that.
And you talk about like the slope of the yard, making sure it's not sloped towards the house.
We do take a look at that as well, to make sure that that's not going
towards
too
the house.
steeply towards the house. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Lost me for a second. I'm talking about showers. All of a sudden, we're talking about grading. I'm just whoa.
When you told me that, I was like thinking, like, wait, what about rain going towards the house?
No, but yes. So a house is supposed to have what's called a swale all around the house. I don't know if you're aware of that, but if you pay attention, it's basically like the slight sloping away from the house, and then towards the middle of your backyard, for instance, and then you'll see from all the way of the backyard sloping towards the house. So it kind of this very slight ditch looking swale that goes around your house towards the street.
Yeah, and I could see that being overlooked. With new developments, I mean, it's probably good, but I can imagine in a home that's been there for a while and land has moved, and that'd be something big to look for. Especially it goes back to when we're talking about in this area where there is flooding, but not really, Katie, but there's flooding in the Houston area, so that could be big. And, going back to the plumbing in the shower we were talking about earlier, if you can't get a camera to go through the line, how big is it that you can't do that? Or would you recommend that everyone should do that, run a camera? Or is that something, or let me frame this better. So at what point do you say, you know what, they need to do this? Is this when you're running the water and you're testing it and you're seeing the water come back and you're like, okay, yeah. So what does that look like in your mind? How do you know when, you would recommend that there's got to be another step?
Just like new construction, okay? People are going to assume that new construction does not need to be inspected. Wrong. Everything needs to be inspected, no matter how new or old. And it's the same thing for the sewer line. You've got a couple points of entry for the sewer line. What I'm usually do is through the clean out. That's at ground level in front of the house. There are others who can actually go in through the one of the waste lines that come out through the rooftop. So you can do that as well. But so when you test that, yes, it's a good idea to run some water. One, it helps with moving the camera around. And two, if there's something called a belly in the line, which is just basically like pressure on the pipe. So if you have a pipe that's at an angle or whatever, straight, as long as it's straight, and then whatever weight above it is pushing down on it, then water's just going to get caught there, and that's what's called a belly.
Does that always happen? That belly?
So you don't always see that. A lot of the lines are usually pretty good, but sometimes when you have backing up, it could be because of bellying.
Wow.
Because the thing is that there are times when construction is done and you have heavy machinery going all across the lawn. Well, you're thinking, okay, well, my sewer line is, 2, 3, 4 feet underground. It shouldn't be touched. Well, the thing is, all that weight could crush it. So, if you're experiencing some type of backup, you want to check to see what's going on with your sewer line.
I've seen homeowners that have purchased a home, they've rented the property, and I've had a tenant call and say, hey, there's been sewage coming back through my bathtub.
Wow.
And could you imagine that? Because then what that causes the issue that happens now is now that tenant, is forced to use the other bathroom. But if all bathrooms are down, then what? Now they're having to go get a hotel room. Now they're contacting the property management company because they're saying, hey, this needs to be fixed right now. So, of course, if you have a good property management company, they're there, they'll get the plumbers out there to fix it and all that, but that's not overnight. That's not right away. I don't know how long that takes, and then you have to get remediate. You have to, it's just a big mess, And now the tenant's like in a hotel room, and you as an inspector, it's really that saving grace for that owner. Once again, before we even started this, we also talked about the price. How much does it cost for your service?
So my, for instance, on a 2,000 square foot home, about $410, about $420.
As an owner, you spend $420 for you to make sure that you're making the right purchase and to make sure that maybe you don't get that maintenance call. Ways that an owner can lose money is they're getting rent that's not at market, one. And two, their maintenance, they're just spending so much money on maintenance. They're getting so much, as the management company, or even if you're self-managing it, you're getting calls all the time about different maintenance issues. And if you had an actual inspection, this could save you that money that you can lose. And another thing that's so great about you guys is, that report that you put out there, that, the buyer can then use that report and use that as a negotiation tool saying, hey, my roof, there's issues with the roof. And because of that, I would like to have whatever amount of money, taken off the amount. Talking about roofs, what are some things that you would look for on a roof?
So with a home, you have shingles. Usually the rooftop is sloped, and you just want to take a look at the condition of the shingles. You want to take a look at the condition of everything connected to the shingles, because shingles are made to shed water, and then you got the water runoff. So what happens from there? It'll either go into gutters, gutters that they install around the house, or they'll just some people just don't want gutters, and it'll just go to ground. But yeah, no, the condition of the roof, and you also want to check in from the attic as well, the decking, the plywood that's being used. You want to look at the condition of that and see what it looks like. That's what the shingles are installed on, and you can see that from the attic most times.
Wow, you just talked about gutters and not being in homes. I do see that in some of these new builds.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that?
Yeah. Because the thing is that the whole purpose of that system is to push water away from your foundation.
Well, I'm talking about not having gutters. Would you recommend for them not, basically would you say you should have a gutter instead of these new homes not having a gutter?
Yeah, I would always recommend having gutters.
I just, every time I see a home that doesn't have a gutter, it just blows my mind. Like, why wouldn't you just, like, how much does it cost, when you're doing a build just to put a gutter on? But what can happen without that gutter?
Well, the water just runs off, goes straight to ground. It can cause erosion near the foundation. So lots of times, older homes that don't have any gutters, you walk around and you'll just see like this line directly beneath where the rooftop ends. You'll just see that line all around, just cut into the dirt, and the grass just grows into it. So sometimes you got to be careful. If you step into it, you may twist your ankle. It's that deep.
Wow.
But yeah, it erodes around the foundation, and it could compromise the foundation.
So not having a gutter can erode the foundation. That's good. That's good info right there. We
usually like to tell clients that we would like to see water run away from the house at least 6 feet. Because depending on the soil type, it could always be absorbed back towards the foundation. So that's another thing.
So now, you're still on the exterior, you're walking around the house, you're looking at foundation, and you look up and you see that big box, that AC unit, the HVAC system. When you're inspecting that, what are you looking for in that?
So we're looking at the condition. We're looking at the age. We always make sure to document the age. We also do what's called temperature differentials, which is basically taking a temperature at the return vent and then taking temperatures at the supply vents to see what the difference is. And what we usually like to see is between 15 and 22 degree difference because that tells us that the house is cooling enough as far as cooling is concerned. Heating, we just simply take temperatures of the heat, and as long as it's over 100 degrees, then it's good on heating.
In this business, there's you do get a lot of calls for that HVAC system. Yeah. A lot of calls, and a lot of money is spent on getting someone over to fix it or replacing it. Matter of fact, I'm about to replace one in the house right now for a 3-ton system because the one that they had was too small to cool the entire house.
Wow.
So they're getting a 3-ton, but I think they were running like a 2 or whatever. But that's interesting because that's a lot of money. I mean, we're talking about from $7,000 to $10,000 that now that homeowner now has to shell out.
It's a good chunk.
But you guys would have seen that, or at least have that in the inspection so that then, the homeowner can then make that decision. Okay, am I gonna play, Russian roulette with this thing? Am I gonna, but at least they have that inspection done prior. So you've done the exterior, you've done the roof, you've done electrical, you've done plumbing, and you've done HVAC. Is there anything else you guys inspect?
The thing about systems like that, AC systems, is that they could be working good. Another important piece of that system is age. So date of manufacture. So if I'm inspecting a home and the AC is working just fine, but yet it's 18 years old, that is something you want to keep, you want to consider as well, because usually systems like that have like 12 to 15 year lifespan. So the day that I inspected, it was probably working perfectly. But the day he closes and shows up at the house, it's not. It could happen.
It's 12 to 15 year lifespan. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, as the buyer, you're thinking, okay, now I'm at year 15. It's humming and it's working, good now, but I better get ready for putting down another $7 to $10K or more for this purchase.
No, I've come across plenty of old systems that work just fine, but just the fact that they're 20 years plus old, the client has to pause for a second, like, how old?
Yeah, and you as an owner or a property manager, you always want the tenant to just love where they live, and nobody wants to live in a hot home in Houston in the summer where they're not comfortable. They would probably rather be in their office, or suppose they have small kids. Who wants to deal with that? So so I definitely get it. I definitely get the importance of really checking that AC unit. And I get everything else that you're inspecting. Like I totally understand really the importance of what you do. And I think every buyer should be really thinking that you are probably one of the most important people on their team, if not the most important. When someone schedules an appointment with you and you're at that house, about how long does that take to go through this whole inspection?
So the rule of thumb for us is about 1,000 square feet per hour.
Okay.
So that's the rule of thumb. But, you also have the exterior. So that adds on a little bit. I like to take my time looking around and stuff like that. And, I know some folks that like to run through the house. There's some people that I do know that have really sharp eyes, and they can go through the house really fast and catch like 12 things without looking like they even looked left or right. But I can't do that. I have to go and I have to take a look and I have to inspect everything to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm looking at. So, but no, rule of thumb about an hour for every 1,000 square feet. And then maybe I'd say about another 30 to 40 minutes for the outside.
Why I laughed is because when you were talking about taking your time in the inspections, I thought about the military. I thought about uniform inspections and all these other inspections that you probably had to do in your past life. Well, that's great. That's great. So Cesar, I really appreciate your time today. I know, you have other homes that you have to inspect today, but It's been an honor to talk to you. And I know if I have any investors that are looking, I'm going to make sure they come to TCQ Inspections. And you guys are really, truly the premier in inspections, home inspections. So once again, if you're looking for an inspector, go to TCQ Inspections. They cover Houston, Katy, and Sealy. The owner, Cesar, is a veteran. So not only will you be using someone that, is going to be very detailed, but, this is a veteran that gave 20 plus years protecting the country. And, we really are lucky to have you in our community. So I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. And this is Lindell at High End Homes Handled Right, the Real Property Management Luxury Podcast.
Thank you for having me.